Hello everyone, welcome to Time to Awaken. I am Michael, and below you'll find a connection to my YouTube channel, also a Rumble channel for the Mark of the Beast. Cannot go on the other one. Apparently it is too far out there for them to believe. Actually, they know so, but whatever. Email. Below that is my email, and you can contact me if you'd like. I'd be glad to talk to anyone. Just keep it civil. And we can talk about what I am teaching here. All right, with that, let's continue. This is a story of Lazarus, okay? I constantly find new connections to this timeline. And so I call this another type and shadow, okay? And it kind of is. There's some really cool connections here, and we're going to write some false understanding here along the way, okay? And I'll show you that when we get there. All right. So, an end time type and shadow, Genesis 31:41. I reference this verse a lot, okay? Because this is the timeline for the end. Okay, the first 7 years, easy years, are complete, and we are entering into the seals time period. Okay, thus have I been 20 years in thy house. I served thee 14 years for thy 2 daughters. Okay, 2 Gentile daughters, and 6 years for thy cattle, and thou hast changed my wages 10 times. All right. 2 women, or brides. The cattle represent the Jews, and God uses it in Old Testament scripture directly to describe the Jews. I want you to keep in mind something. If you look through the biblical account of Jesus' genealogy, you will also find that they've purposely mentioned 2 Gentile wives, or 2 Gentile brides, if you want to call them that, in her genealogy. Seriously. And so that all plays into this whole concept. Okay, so this 14 years is broken down. If you've ever read the story, hopefully you have. If not, go study it out. So 7 easy years for the first bride, 7 harder years for the second bride, and really harder 6 years for the cattle, or the Jews in this case. All right, and this is our timeline. This is truly the timeline, and I proved this out actually in number 67, I think it is, where it talks about puzzle completed. Okay, another timeline broken down. Okay, in fact, that's one of the main ones in the Bible, right there in that other video. All right. So, Jesus told us of Lazarus. Okay? Lazarus, John 11, 1 through 46. Now a certain man was sick, named Lazarus, of Bethany, the town of Mary and her sister Martha. It was that Mary which anointed the Lord with ointment, and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. And therefore his sisters sent unto him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom thou lovest is sick. Okay? Again, there's your 2 sisters. Just like we saw 2 sisters in the Jacob story, we see 2 sisters here. Jacob represents the Jews at the end. Okay? And he's sick. He's got problems. Okay? When Jesus heard this, he said, This sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God might be glorified thereby. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister, and Lazarus. And when he had heard therefore that he was sick, he abode 2 days still in the same place where he was. 2 days, notice. And it's a very odd response, isn't it? Hey, he's very sick, may die, but hey, it's okay. We'll just stay here another 2 days. Okay? Another one of these types and shadows, those 2 days of Jesus. Notice again that there's 3 different players here, not including Jesus. Jesus is the ultimate, coming to get all 3 in the end. But we have 3 players here, 2 sisters and Lazarus being the Jew. Okay? All right. Then after that said he to his disciples, Let us go into Judea again. His disciples say unto him, Master, the Jews of late sought to stone thee, and goest thou thither again? And Jesus answered, Are there not 12 hours in the day? If any man walk in the day, he stumbleth not, because he seeth the light of this world. But if a man walketh in the night, he stumbleth, because there is no light in him. This is a cool verse, okay? If you walk in the day, you stumble not. It's a spiritual meaning more than it is a day and night meaning, okay? It's a spiritual meaning. Those who are in light and those who are in darkness, okay? Those who don't know. So, because he seeth the light of this world. Who's the light of the world? Jesus, right? But if a man walk in the night, he stumbleth. He can't find his way, right? Because there is no light in him. There's no Jesus. They don't believe. These things said he, and after that he saith unto them, all right. Yes, I stopped. Jesus' teaching, a perfect connection to Paul's teaching in 1 Thessalonians 5. Oh, it is. And you see it again in John chapter 11, I believe. Okay? John chapter 11 holds this same understanding. The light and the day, the darkness and the night. This has nothing to do with walking literally in the sun or in the night or whatever. This is a spiritual understanding. Okay? 1 Thessalonians 5. But of the times and the seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you, for yourself know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. Oh, yes, he does. But he's coming like a thief to those who don't know the time of his coming. Okay? For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. So that word escape is found in Luke 21:36, where it tells us that to pray always that you may be worthy to escape all these things which are about to come about. Okay? It's the rapture verse. Okay? But these people are not going to escape because they're in darkness. Okay? They're going to call peace and safety. This is what I believe is going to happen here. Remember, I keep telling everybody that Israel, the country of Israel, that's in the land right now, must be taken from the land for 7 years, right? Because they haven't been following God's laws, etc. And so they need to be taken from the land for 7 years, or the time of the Gentiles is complete during this tribulation period. Okay? But right now, they're fighting in their own land, and I believe that at some point here they're going to come out of it, and everybody's going to go, oh, cool, peace and safety, everything's coming to an end, and everything's going to be good. Okay? Everybody's going to leave, and what's going to happen? Suddenly, destruction cometh upon them. Okay? All right. And they don't escape. And that's the way many people are that's what's going to happen to a lot of people who don't know and understand the time of Jesus coming. Okay? But ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that the day should overtake you as a thief. Ye are all the children of light and the children of the day. See, there it is again. So, ye, brethren, are not in darkness. Darkness and light. Okay? It's not going to overtake you as a thief. We're going to be taken because we want to be taken. Okay? Ye are all the children of light and the children of day. We are not of the night nor of darkness. Therefore let us not sleep as do others, but let us watch and be sober. For they that sleep, sleep in the night, and they that be drunken are drunken in the night. But let us who are of the day be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and love, and for a helmet the hope of salvation. For God hath not appointed us to wrath, but to obtain salvation by our Lord Jesus Christ. 1 Thessalonians 5:19. Now if you go back one verse to 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, where everybody talks about a rapture verse there, not. That is the end of tribulation in Matthew 24. Connect the dots. Okay? All right. Jesus tells the disciples Jesus is asleep or dead. Right? They don't get it. They don't always get it. They're kind of sleepy, aren't they? Our friend Lazarus sleepeth, but I go that I may awake him out of sleep. And then said his disciples, Lord, if he sleep, he shall do well. Howbeit Jesus spake of his death. But they thought that he had spoken of taking of rest and sleep. Then said Jesus unto them plainly, Lazarus is dead, and I am glad for your sakes that I was not there, to the intent ye may believe. Nevertheless, let us go unto him. Then said Thomas, which is called Didymus, remember, he's not a believer yet, unto his fellow disciples, let us also go, that we may die with him. Okay. Type and shadow. Lazarus represents the Jews at the end, and he must come back and wake them up. Okay? The Bible tells us they are asleep. They are partially blinded through all of this. They have no idea what's truly going to come. Like so many churches today, they teach that Israel will remain in the land. They're in the land now, and they go straight to the end of Ezekiel and talk about this saving of the land, that they're never going to be removed from the land again. The problem is they've got the whole thing out of context. They've got it all completely out of time, right? You got to go back through all of time. It's going to happen on a much faster basis, but it's still going to go through all of these things again. Okay? Yeah. And this is where people fail to understand. So, he comes to Bethany. Then when Jesus came, he found that he had lain in the grave 4 days already. Now, Bethany was nigh unto Jerusalem, about 15 furlongs off. And many of the Jews came to Martha and Mary to comfort them concerning their brother. 4 days in the grave. Okay? They were sick for 4 days. They were in trouble for 4 days. Alright? It's a type in shadow. Now, if anyone were to look at some of my other videos, they will see that there's like a 3.5 year period, give or take. Okay? Full 10.5 years where somebody is going to be taken and they're going to fly away at the end. Okay? And there's 7 years of seals, and then there's 3.5 years into the trumpets. Okay, the other half of 7 years. Right, 14 years total. 7 years seals, 7 years trumpets, 3.5 years into trumpets. A group is taken. They fly into the wilderness. Okay? I believe this is it. Okay? And they're taken and they're protected and they're saved. Okay? All right. The great faith of Martha. Then Martha, as soon as she heard that Jesus was coming, went and met him. But Mary sat still in the house. Do you see the difference there already? Martha went to see him. She knew he was coming. But Mary just sat there. She sat still in the house. Oblivious. Then said Martha unto Jesus, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. But I know that even now whatsoever thou wilt ask of God, God will give it thee. And Jesus saith unto her, Thy brother shall rise again. And Martha said unto him, I know that he shall rise again in the resurrection at the last day. And Jesus said unto her, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Believe thou this? She said unto him, Yea, Lord, I believe that thou art the Christ, the Son of God, which should come into the world. She was a believer. She had it down. She understood this. This is the Luke version. Okay? Where's Mary? She's still sitting back at the house, waiting for him to arrive. Okay? But what does Martha do? She goes out after him, right? She knew he was coming, and she went out after him. And she knew what was going to happen, right? And we see it here, right? Anyone who believeth shall never die. That's a cool saying, wasn't it? This is Luke. Okay? And there are some in Mark as well that won't die. But many will. All right, this is Martha. Mary and a large number. Now, what have I talked about over and over again in my videos? The multitude, the great number. You have a small number, like Mary, and then you have, like Martha, and then you have Mary with a large number of people following her around. This is the multitude, okay? And when she had so said, she went her way and called Mary, her sister, secretly, saying, The Master is come, and calleth for thee. As soon as she heard that, she arose quickly and came unto him. Right? She had to be told by the first sister. Remember, I keep telling you that Luke is going to come back and tell them. He is the working group. Over and over again, we see these things in Scripture. Right? I have an entire video based on that very thing for the fisherman story in Luke. Okay? We see it again here. Right? The Master has come. He comes and tells her, and now she knows. Now she believes. But she had to be come and told by her sister, by the Luke group. Okay? And there's a large number with her. Not with Martha, but with Mary. Now Jesus was not yet come into the town, but was in that place where Martha met him. The Jews then which were with her in the house, and comforted her when they saw Mary, that she rose up hastily, and went out, followed her, saying, She goeth unto the grave to weep there. Okay? Here's the big question. Here's a big question. Then when Mary was come where Jesus was, and saw him, she fell down at his feet, saying unto him, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. And when Jesus therefore saw her weeping, and the Jews also weeping, which came with her, he groaned in the spirit, and was troubled, and said, Where have ye laid him? They said unto him, Lord, come and see. Jesus wept. Now everybody quotes this as the shortest verse of the Bible. There is other verses that have 2 words, okay, as well, but they're longer words, so I guess that fits. But what was Jesus weeping over? Then said the Jews, Behold, how he loved him. And some of them said, Could not this man which opened the eyes of the blind have caused them that even this man should not have died? And Jesus therefore again, groaning in himself, cometh to the grave. Why did Jesus cry and groan within himself? Can anybody answer? Jesus was not weeping for the death of Lazarus. We know this because he waited 2 whole days for Jesus to die. He told his own disciples that he was glad that this happened, that they could see the truth, right? Martha, he told her what was going to happen. What was he weeping over? He was weeping over Mary and this large group who were so troubled and groaning over what's happening, because they weren't understanding, they weren't knowledgeable, they weren't studying, they weren't, the list goes on. They didn't know he was coming. They didn't know that he could do this. Okay? And Jesus was troubled in his spirit, it says. And he wept over these people, not over Lazarus, because he knew he could raise Lazarus from the dead. He was weeping over these people who had no clue. This is the Mark group, the Left Behind group. He's weeping over them because they didn't know the hour of his coming. They didn't know the time of his coming. Okay? It's a completely different perspective when you see it from an end time understanding. He wasn't weeping over Lazarus. He was weeping over the Mark group, those that got left behind. Okay? The second bride. Again, if you look through Mark, we see this constantly. Why didn't you know? Why didn't you believe? I sent you people. I told you. I sent you my word. I gave you everything you needed, and you didn't believe. All right. It was a cave, and a stone lay upon it. And Jesus said, Take ye away the stone. And Martha, the sister of him that was dead, saith unto him, Lord, by this time he stinketh, for he hath been dead 4 days. Remember, we talked about those 4 days. It's a year, 10.5 years at this point, okay, into the tribulation. Jesus saith unto her, Said I not unto thee, that if thou wouldst believe, thou shouldst see the glory of God? Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead was laid. And Jesus lifted up his eyes, and he said, Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me, and I knew that thou hearest me always, but because of the people which stand by, I said it, and they may believe that thou hast sent me. And when he thus had spoken, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he that was dead came forth, and bound hand and foot with the grave clothes, and his face was bound about with a napkin. And Jesus said unto them, Loose him, and let him go. He's loosened from this time. He's loosened from this tribulation period, and he's brought out of it, right? From the sickness and death that is in this time period. Then many of the Jews which came to Mary and had seen the things which Jesus did believed on him. But some of them went their ways to the Pharisees and told them what things Jesus had done. John 11, 1-46. Some believed, and they walked away from these false churches. But then they went back to their Pharisees, right? The false teachers, the false preachers, the false churches. And they told them what things Jesus had done. And many of them still will not believe. Many of them due to the fact that they have false information to begin with. So others never do. And so they are deceived. All right. That was cool. It's a full explanation of these end times from a story within John. Okay? The very story within John, we see it all play out. It plays out just like the story in Jacob. Different story, but still the same breakdown. Okay? With the same understanding. All right. God bless everyone. Keep studying, keep searching, dig into it. Find these things. They're all important. God shows some people some things, some other people other things, right? Keep watching, for the time is incredibly near. We are now on top of it. Okay? I believe we are in the year. I know people have been saying that for many, many years, generations and generations. But the Bible shows that we are here. It's time. The Bible tells us that we are to know the time. We just read that. Okay? It's time to awaken, folks. It's time to awaken and see the truth. God bless everyone.